Welcome everyone to the Moisky News for November the 9th, 2020. Today we have two subjects I'd like to go through. The first would be Brexit as it is nearing its final week of trade negotiations. The second subject will concern the Alex Salmond inquiry and how the SNP are failing to do their duty when it comes to transparency. Because Brexit negotiations have not yielded a positive result, i.e. a deal, as the EU are making demands that undermine our independence and sovereignty, and also because Boris has pushed through the internal market bill that while he believes champions our own security within a nation, many others believe or have obsessed over the fact that they believe it undermines and breaks international law along with the withdrawal agreement. This has led the EU chief and Boris Johnson to have a phone call to try and resolve all of this before those final weeks of negotiations. By the way, that final week is next week. A Downing Street spokesman said the Prime Minister will speak to Ursula von der Leyen tomorrow afternoon to take stock of the UK-EU negotiations. Johnson believes and hopes that a deal with the EU can be agreed, but the UK was well prepared if final stage talks failed. Continuing the quote by saying, "I very much hope that we will get a deal, and obviously that depends on our friends and partners across the channel. I think there is a deal to be done if they want to do it. If not, the country is of course very, very well prepared, and as I have said before, we can do very, very well on Australian terms." There are a number of claims that have been circulating that believe because at time of recording Joe Biden has been declared winner by many media outlets, even though that is not quite yet confirmed, that the negotiations between the UK and EU have been escalated, but that could also lead to escalating talks between the UK and the US to get a deal done before Biden takes office, if Biden takes office. Michel Barnier arrived in the United Kingdom yesterday, and he has until the end of the week to get this done, if he can get this done. As many know, the issues that currently reside within the negotiations as a sticking point, ignoring the internal market bill for a moment, would be common fisheries policy and the EU's desire to continue using our waters and fleecing it dry, and the level playing field, neither of which should remotely affect the United Kingdom's ability to look after itself, which it can do when it's not tethered to some other country. I'm being very charitable with that. It is widely known that, deal or no deal with the UK leaving, the countries hit hardest financially will be France and Germany. All I have to say to you two is, not sorry in the slightest. You're the idiots that still vote for this crap. And we are not going to give up our fishing waters for you. Nor are we going to abide your fair play rules when we could undercut you. It is called business. Since this happened, which was on Saturday, a statement was put out by Downing Street and by Ursula von der Leyen, both indicating that things have progressed. There is still light at the end of the tunnel, but there are still talking points that are going to cause issues over the course of the week. I wish the EU nothing but the best in trying to take from us what we should never have to give to you, an undemocratic body that wishes to control others even when they're not members of you. Moving on from that, I'd like to now talk about the Alex Salmond inquiry. The entire point of this inquiry was to investigate into whether or not Holyrood unlawfully investigated Alex Salmond. The cross-party committee of members of the Scottish Parliament has repeatedly asked the SNP for key evidence and documentation to be provided. And while initially the SNP were open to doing so and working with them to find resolutions and get answers and make it public for all to see, Nicola Sturgeon yesterday said that releasing Alex Salmond case legal advice would breach the ethics code, something which she could have said much sooner, which is a damning statement of how desperate one is to not provide information that is key to an investigation into their own party's conduct. And I find it somewhat a little ironic for a government that is currently trying to push through something that would essentially wiretap everyone's homes to not release phone call information that they themselves have. And while I can to an extent agree with parliamentary privilege of some kind where discretion is applicable, this investigation is strictly on the SNP, which has led to a number of articles surfacing, more notably from the Scotsman, talking about how the SNP are nothing like Westminster, where many MPs vote against their party because principles and because they disagree. But in the SNP and Holyrood, you have uniformity of mediocrity. The nearest comparison I can draw from the top of my head is the gullible sheeple that vote down party lines even if the evidence says otherwise in the States. No offence to the Americans watching, but the last 4 years has taught me a lot about your politics. It is quite damaging at the moment, and I hope eventually it can be rectified, but I doubt it will be in the next 50 to 100 years. Alex Salmond has, for the most part, been incredibly open about this, and when he was found not guilty of nearly all the charges and not proven on one, he was willing to wait. Because of COVID-19, he took a step back. But once things started to die down for a little while, the inquiry started. He provided his evidence. It is the SNP's job now to do the same. And I'm going to say this now for anyone who is Scottish and an SNP voter who doesn't like it when an Englishman looks at your political system and realises it's trash. Grow the fuck up. Criticism from anyone is criticism, and the English are not your enemy.